Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today something different for you. Bosch hammer. Something you don't see too often. A Bosch GSH11E, and for repair under warranty. This thing is brand new, supposedly. Hasn't even been switched on yet because it won't switch on. So we're going to wee look at this here, see what the problem is, see if we can get her fixed up again under warranty. Right, so let's see what she's doing. Well, she switches on. Starting to question myself here now. She's running and she's hammering, but I don't think it's hammering exactly right. I don't know. Never actually ran one of these straight out of the box, brand new, so I can't tell for certain. I'm going to get another brand new one and compare the two. Just off the shelf. Use the same chisel as well. Right, see how she's actually hammering under her own weight. That's how she should be hammering. You shouldn't have to push down to get the hammer to engage. If I compare that to this one, yeah, under her own weight it's not hitting, but if I press down, it's hammering. So it is hammering, but it's not hammering down under its own weight. That's how you know if a hammer needs a service or not, if it's actually able to hit under its own weight, just pushing down. It should be able to lift itself off. This is staying lifted off, so it's a good seal, but it's not actually hitting. So there is something wrong here. Right, so we know it's running and it is hammering. It's just not hammering exactly right. It only hits whenever you actually press it down into the concrete. It's not to say that the customer's been very picky about this here. I rang him on this to see what he said. He actually says this didn't work at all. 3 different fellows tried using it, couldn't get it to hammer at all. So it's as if the chisel's not going up far enough, or the actual striker is not meeting it far enough. So it could be a case that there's grease too much in one location, and it's actually making too much of a cushion, and it's not getting proper contact. That can be the case because working on older ones of these here that are well worn out, I sometimes put on the wrong grease, heavier, thicker stuff. It just allows the hammer to run better when it's really old and worn out. Thicker grease gives better seals inside, gives it better compression. Harder on the motor, better for the hammer. But if you put too much in the wrong location, it can affect the hammer quite badly. Like if you put too much grease between the striker and the piston, instead of there being an air cushion between, there's just a solid block of grease, and it makes a very, very, very violent hammer. You nearly feel like you're about to break the hammer if you were to use it. Very, very strong compression, very, very strong strike. You couldn't use the hammer like it, but it'll only stay like that for a few minutes or a few seconds because the grease will work its way out because there's too much compression and it always gets squeezed out between the piston and the striker and gets replaced with air again. So it can't be that. It has to be either too much grease down here or a missing component. Maybe the big fat O-ring between the striker and the hammer. Strip her down here and see what we can see. But there is something wrong here. But that's all just a guess. I don't actually know what's wrong with us. I'm going to have to open it, have a look and see myself and see what we can figure out. Now we know it's not this end. The motor and everything is running fine down here. The problem's up here in the hammer section. So we're going to go up here. The components up here, we don't need to touch these either. These are just for holding in the chisel. Right, but we want to see are on the inside. I don't think I've ever actually worked on one of these machines under warranty before. So this will be a first. I normally get them in when they're totally used and abused. Now, I've already cleaned the workbench. I don't want to introduce any dirt or grit into this here hammer on a brand new machine especially. And there's the problem already. It's not the actual striker, it's not the striker itself, and it's not the grease. It's a missing component. Where's the O-ring? There's meant to be a big fat O-ring sitting here. So this is a very simple manufacturing mistake. Just goes to show every little part is needed. It's amazing how such a little thing can have such an impact on a hammer. Well, actually, not even that big an impact. It's only a very subtle difference it makes. All that is an O-ring, but what it actually is more of a cushion spacer. That's sitting on here. Sits on there on this here control disc. And a spacer disc on here. The spacer sits around the striker. That sits on top. And that's actually sitting on top of a spring in the back. And all that's doing is pushing this here striker pin fully down. There's the striker pin for your hammer, for your chisel. So this is what's actually hitting your chisel itself. That's what's making the hammer. That's sitting down on there. It needs to be making contact with your chisel all the time. So this here, there's a spring down here and a sleeve. And on top of the sleeve here is these two plastic pieces. The spacer and the control disc. The control disc is what's on the spring. So that's pushing this here O-ring or spacer cushion back against the striker pin. So it's always kept down against your chisel. If that comes away and it's not there, it leaves a gap. And that gap just allows the striker pin a little bit of play. So whenever the actual main striker is going back and forth under no load, it's not hitting the chisel. Just a slight gap is left. And if you press down, your chisel obviously moves back a bit more. It does a normal hammer mechanism. That's all it is. One simple O-ring. Seeing as there is one thing missing, we'll just make sure the other couple of bits are here too. I don't want to take out the hammer pipe. but I will, just to be sure So there's your striker itself. One thing I wanted to check is this here spacer. Just want to make sure that's not damaged as well, just in case. That's okay. And that's okay. Piston's good. And spring's good. That's all it is. Hammer pipe back in. And the spring, sleeve, tad more grease. A little onto that O-ring too. Striker. Don't think I need to, but for all the money it is, I'm going to just change that as well. Just in case, and it's not an expensive part anyway, so if in any doubt, just replace it. It's under warranty. Bosch want their tools running right. That sits there. And a wee touch of grease just helps hold that O-ring in place. And that should be her. That should have her hammering like she should be when she's brand new, which it is. Yeah, you got a C-clip holding this here tool holder down, then you have an oil seal, and you have another C-clip on top holding down the oil seal. So everything else is in place as it should be. Double Loctite, wouldn't go amiss. Just to make sure they don't back out. Get them all started first, and then drive them home. That should sort it out. Actually a simple fix. Not unusual to get a brand new machine with a manufacturing fault. It's bound to happen every once in a while. This is only ever the second Bosch product I've ever seen with a manufacturing fault. The other one, I think there was a C-clip or something missing in the tool holder and the bit wouldn't stay on. Not too bad when it's only just an O-ring. There we go. That should be her. Manufacturing faults, they happen. It's a simple part that was left out. Human error, it's bound to happen eventually. You just don't want it to happen very often. This was an easy fix this time. It's actually quite a handy one, or a useful one for me. That could have very easily been the wrong O-ring or a defective O-ring fitted. Had it been a different or a defective one, it could have been thinner. That would have given the exact same impression, would have had the exact same fault, but it would have been very difficult to spot because the O-ring, there would have still been a O-ring there, just not the right one. With it actually missing completely is a lot better because you can instantly see it's missing and you can replace it, problem solved. And with having had this machine in now with this fault, we can see the way the machine behaves with that missing O-ring. So if we ever get another one on again doing the exact same thing, you can quickly tell again that it's more than likely to do with this O-ring. That's what happens when that O-ring's not there or too small. Plus, with putting this on YouTube, you all watching it at home will also know what happens when that O-ring is missing. So if you ever get one of these machines and it's hammering where it should hammering, when you're putting pressure down, but just missing when the chisel and hammer are just resting on the ground, you know there's something to do with the gap between the striker and the striker pin up on here. That striker pin's just got a little bit too much play. The chisel's pressing against it, but the striker is not actually hitting the striker pin itself. When you push it all three together, when you're putting it under load, works fine. It's just whenever you're sitting with it hovering on the ground, with the chisel just taking the weight of the machine only, and it's not hammering, it just doesn't have that initial chipping force. That's your problem, missing O-ring. So that's her. One brand new Bosch hammer with a missing O-ring. Put back in, hopefully now working correctly. Sounds good. So that's her. That's the way you want it. That's how you want it there. Just sitting, balancing on its own, and it should be hitting. That's her. One Bosch GSH11E working like it should. That'll keep this customer happy. Bosch hammer in and fixed on the same day, under warranty, as it should, because it's only brand new. That's her, folks. Hope you enjoyed watching. Hope that taught somebody something. Another thing to keep an eye out for if you ever need Bosch hammers. Any hammer for that matter, they all work on the same principles. And as well, if you ever tested a machine to see if it has sufficient hammer, if it needs a service or not, if it seems like it's hammering right and you don't know, just do that same thing. Put the hammer under its own weight. It should be able to lift itself up off the material, and just to give a wee chipping hammer force under its own weight. If it can't do that, it's not getting full compression and may need a service. But anyway, that's her, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. And as well, if you're interested, I uploaded a new video of a Makita teardown, one of the wee tyre inflators. We teardown look at the inside. That's up for the members and on the Patreon channel as well. if you want to check it out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a wee like and a follow if you're enjoying the videos.